Okay, the first thing on the agenda, we are going to break for an executive session.
For the public's information, the board just had a brief executive session about an emergent personnel issue. No action is necessary or anticipated at this time. Bless you.
Okay, since there are only a few of you, you probably overheard us say if there's any comment you have, just raise your hand and we'll get to you. So we're going to move on to the fire fund.
Before you is a revised fire fund. You may recall that we discussed the fire fund at a prior meeting. Just to let you know that there's a revision in the state aid and the MMO, and those resulted in the carryover that you see at the bottom. This budget is assuming increase in millage to 3 mills, which is the maximum allowed under the first class township code. Would the board like to cover the other two items in relation to the fire department that are on the agenda and that were advertised?
Yes.
The chief will take over in a moment, but the first one that you have is sale of surplus fire apparatus. The board should keep in mind that it authorized using a broker. That's a very common strategy for sale of fire apparatus. These brokers that have an awareness of what other fire departments are looking for, and they could be all over the United States. So I'll hand that off to the chief.
We have a group out of Dadeville, Alabama, who had submitted a letter of intent to purchase the 1992 GMC auto car. It's the stainless steel 3,500 gallon tanker for $50,000. I'm looking for a motion to go ahead with the sale of this, and we can get it off our rolls and insurance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you. There will be a brokerage fee that will get subtracted from the actual revenue. The revenue will go back into the fire capital fund.
Thank you. Item B, looking for a motion for pay application number 13 for Management Technologies Incorporated. For pay application number 13, the amount of $137,376.18.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you. They were the last of the 4 contractors that was not on your last agenda. That's why it's a straggler here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In relation to the fire capital fund, just the note that any revenue that comes into the fire capital fund comes from the fire fund. We do not anticipate any transfers of revenue for 2026. The revenue from the sale you just authorized will be deposited into the fire capital fund. We will see what is able to be done with any transfers if we have, for example, a windfall transfer tax or something of that nature, but those usually cannot be anticipated.
the number of firemen on here, is this the 13 under wages, the 13 firemen, or is this with the extra?
The additional anticipated hires are included.
So that's 2 under wages, Gene, or is that 3 under there? With the additionals I'm talking about.
It's 3.
So then it's a total of what, 16 under wages?
Yes, but there are slightly different amounts for the different ranks, et
Sure.
cetera.
Yeah.
And that's also anticipated under the healthcare. You can see that increase under healthcare.
Is everybody under the MMO too, that line item? All 16?
The actuary had provided an estimate of the non-uniformed MMO, and then I requested a revised MMO figure with these individuals added, and that was the difference. Yes. Yes.
Oh, so the under the wages line, should that be by 15 then? That's 15. So 16 for the pension, but 15 for the healthcare and the wages.
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, one of the operational questions I have for the board is, how do you want the budget to be published? Do you want the budget to be published in more of this worksheet style, or more in the just the line item descriptor and an amount that's budgeted for the year? It doesn't have to look exactly like this sheet. It can, it has in the past. Another way to do it is essentially cut out, use the line item descriptors as on your worksheets and cut out all the other columns and just have the 2026.
Do you have a preference for any particular reason?
I think it's much easier for the general public to read it with at least these descriptors instead of this. So my recommendation would be using this style. It doesn't have to have all the prior year stuff in it. But I think this is this type of descriptor is a lot easier to read.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, as a non-financial guru, I can say I think that sounds much easier for a non-financial guru. I think perhaps including the account number.
Sure, we can
And
do,
just
that's easy.
description and then the budgeted
Okay,
expense
thank
or
you.
revenue line.
Thank you. That's exactly the direction I needed. Thank you. Did the board have any questions? Did you want to follow up on the general fund at all? Because I know we left that very unresolved.
I do have a question for Chief Bean. I'm just trying to think of the best way to phrase it. The three extra bodies that we're looking for, obviously 3 bodies helps, but what happens if we don't have those 3 extra bodies?
Primary thing is safety. 2, backstaffing. And trying to cut down the overtime. At least to help with some of it. I can't control fires. I don't think Chief Winchester can control crime. So I don't have a crystal ball other than it's a safety factor. You need a certain number of people to do our job. And at least getting to a certain level. Because things around us are not getting any better. And I know Cumru has to take care of Cumru, but it's a safety issue. We don't have enough people. I'm not sending a single guy in a burning building. Go in teams of 2 or more. That'd be my simple answer. And I can't guarantee you what's going to happen around us. Right now,
if you have a fire, is it always just the firefighters that are on that shift, or do other firefighters come on board if they're needed, whether it's their shift or not?
we've been doing a practice since I've been chief of career staff recall, especially with lack of volunteers. And sometimes even with career staff recall till you get some people in, and that's really to cover because everyone around us here is here. If it's a fire in Cumru. And if it's that big of a deal, we're pulling everybody around us to the point where even our neighboring departments are doing career staff recalls to get people in to cover. Because everybody's on that shift going to that call, and then we work from that point. But I'm talking working incidents, stuff that's going to be there. We're going to be there for a while. The 422 incident, we did a recall for that because we knew that crew or that platoon was going to be down there for a couple hours at the minimum. Ended up being less than what I anticipated, but it's one of those, yes, we do career staff recall, but again, I can't predict when these things are going to happen.
I'm trying to read into your comment. Is your concern that maybe there won't be as many firefighters in surrounding communities to help?
Absolutely. That's why you see Spring at the staffing level they're at, Wyomissing's at the staffing level they're at. I can't use too many other departments because when you get into the city is a totally different.
Their
form of
staffing
doing
level,
things.
meaning that they're at full capacity? Full
They're at a
staff?
certain level where you can run an engine out that's equipped that you can go to work. Putting an engine on the road with the driver only. You're not doing too much. Take it to the people there. But we're seeing it around us. Daytime is really bad. You might get a driver only on certain rigs, but our run cards have been adjusted to work together with some of these other county companies that have staffing. So we are getting people, in turn, we're getting people too. Because it's not like it's just us showing up to the calls. It's quite the list. And sometime if you're really, really interested, I can gladly show you what a run card looks like and how they work. And how they're based, because it's off of time and distance. And again, we're pulling in stuff from all around us when we have a fire.
So your concern is probably more the volunteer only departments as opposed to ones that have the full-time staff. I'm trying to read
Yes.
into you a little bit
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yeah, and matter of fact, there was just one posting today. It's volunteer. I forget where the location was, and I should have screenshot the article. But as of January 31st or December 31st, 2025, they're going to be closing their doors for a multitude of reasons. One is lack of people, lack of volunteers. And that was just, I seen that on social media and I should have screenshot what it was, but I think Commissioner Bill Miller's seen it also. This
It's
is
on 59 News.
was it? Okay. I don't watch the news too often. I have other things to do. But it's a sign of the times. This was talked at the PATC conference. This has been a heavy topic of what's happening with the fire service nationally, not just here, across the board. And the fact is we can't do our job just by ourselves. So hopefully that answers your question, Greg. I'm trying to.
It does.
You know.
You're trying to be politically correct, I guess, to a degree, but thank you.
Just to make sure I'm following the bouncing ball, and not that one is more important than the other, first of all, but when you talk about safety, just what you're referring to, is that the safety of your guys? That's how I interpret it, or is it just across the board, safety of our guys and safety of the community when we respond to fires?
Safety across the board. At most, my primary concern are my staff, but it's also everybody that's on the scene of a working fire. And I'll use an example for you, the Mones Hill Road fire that Spring had, where we had a Mayday. We didn't have the Mayday, Spring had the Mayday. We were lucky enough that day to have extra people on because of how the academy fell in different rotations. And we're able to execute basically getting that person out untangled with minor injuries. And it could have gone really bad because they went through the first floor into the basement. Had we not had those people there at that point for a Mayday, it takes numerous bodies to enact what you have to do to get somebody untangled from something and get them out. So that's probably one of my leading examples of why you need to have people there. And sometimes till you get that motion going, you go from having what you have to sometimes just enough. Very seldom do we have too many. But you're well deep into the run cards with alarms.
Because the only follow-up question I would have is just around operationally, how this changes what we do today operationally versus next year with 3 additional members of the department. In terms of, is it another platoon? Is it just bolstering our existing platoons, that sort of thing? Just as much for me as for everyone else who's watching and listening.
Currently, right now, we have 2 platoons with 3 on. and 2 platoons with 2. Those 2 of those people would be to fill out those 2 platoons with the 3rd. Excuse me. The other one is to fill an officer spot. So we have command structure here at all times. Supplementing with what we have from the volunteer side, which we have 2 people left there. So in any incident you get to, it actually takes more than that than to run an incident. From a command staff standpoint. So it really is not going to change it. It's going to bolster what we have now to bring us up to where I feel comfortable. And again, if we have a person that's off on the platoon, we won't necessarily need to backfill. We can make things work, because you're going to have times when people are on vacation, if someone's injured, which I have now. So we had to move some people around, move a person to another platoon, so we could actually have 2 and 1. So the platoon that did have 2 went down to 1. We had to bring somebody over from the 3. So now we're going to get him back. It's just a matter of time. And accidents happen. So it's a dangerous job.
So what I'm hearing is, I just want to read it back. What I'm hearing is adding these 3 personnel will allow you to send, should there be a fire in our community or in our neighboring communities, our guys in there with confidence that they can do their job safely.
Yes.
On every shift too, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the challenging part, right? So we're, even at the increase that Gene put together here, we're still probably about 400,000 short in terms of our fund balance for this that we need to be at. It's literally almost about 400,000 for the 3 extra people. So it becomes a question of, I don't know what's the right wording.
And so you're saying, even with the increase to 3 mils for the fire fund, we're still out of.
We're still 400,000 short of where we should be to have stable footing, if you will, on here. In other words, if we pass this today, we're pretty much locked into a tax increase next year.
Which would only be possible should legislation at the state level pass to allow us to increase it further.
Well, we'd have to
Figure.
do some finagling.
Or, yeah.
You would have to have another fund cover that.
I am conflicted. This is a rock and a hard place.
It is.
If the reality is that our chief of police, or the chief of our fire department is telling us he doesn't feel confident that we can send firefighters into our community to save our residents' homes and families that are burning and do that safely, then I think we need to just figure out what we gotta figure out. And that's just where I land here, is if we are sending these guys into these fires, we owe them a duty. We have a duty to them to make sure we're doing that and asking them to take that risk with the right safety and knowing that we gave them what they needed.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, on the point that the chief was making, you drive by most of the smaller municipalities, fire stations, there's signs out in front of like all of them, volunteers wanted and stuff like that. So
I noticed that.
I think he's got a legitimate concern in the number of volunteers are declining. We've experienced it here, but you can see it around the county when you just drive around.
I mean, I realize the alternative is either a rock or a hard place, depending on which way you're looking. But I will proudly look into the eyes of any of our residents and explain to them why taxes had to go up. Because we need to keep our firefighters safe, and we owe that to our firefighters who are risking their lives.
something else you have to take in consideration. During the negotiations for the fire contract, they wanted more personnel. So with Gene, Jim, myself, and Kelsey, we got it down to one more administrative staff and 2 more firefighters. So if we do anything in the fire department, they probably won't sign this current agreement and it'll go into arbitration. And then we could end up losing even more because their initial proposal was way more than what we could afford. So we got to err in caution here, not saying that they're ruling the roost, but we got to take that into consideration. That might mess up the deal that we have. It's almost completed. And, you know, the last thing is the pension, which we talked about. So you got to take that into consideration.
What do you think, Leisha?
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to think we have to go with the safety if that's what we need.
Before we get too far, I wanted to mention something else. Line item 4110-363. This one sticks in my craw, always will. We are charged an additional fee by 3 of our water companies out of the 4.
$70,000 hydrant rental, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I was gonna question
Okay,
that because
so-
that's a lot.
well,
We
that-
talked
that-
about it last year too.
We've talked about this, I think, every year since I become chief. Because I believe there's a maintenance charge on all of our water bills. I know there's one in West Reading for me. I believe there's one here. And I know they're able to do this, especially the PUC companies, Aqua, the American. Shillington Waters is the bigger one of ours because we have more hydrants from them. But that's a chunk of change right there. That's 1/10 of a mil if I'm just doing it off the top of my head right out of the gate.
Oh, the reason we're renting is because they're not in Cumru Township. Is that?
No, these are all within the township. We have, and I don't know the exact numbers without going back to my other spreadsheet. We have so many in PA American, which is a 222 corridor and everything to the north, the Grings Hill exit. There's a series of hydrants up there that are PA American. Lion's share of that's Shillington. And the other one is down in Flying Hills, which is Aqua.
What you're saying is the supplier owns the hydrants that they then
Yeah.
charge us to.
And here's a better one for you. And I'm saying from a political standpoint, you want another item to go like after in question is why not put that, no offense, but why not put that in the water bills? And we're paying duplicate of that because 2 of those areas, we can't touch a hydrant unless there's an emergency. So I feel like we're double paying because I believe there's a maintenance fee on everybody's water bills. Done this, worked in that department for quite some time. But that's a huge chunk and that's going up every year. The only one we don't get a hydrant rental fee from is Rawa.
Okay, so you're saying that the people paying their bills are paying this fee and we are also.
I'd have to
like
see a bill that
double
comes from
dipping kind?
Shillington, but obviously we have 1, 2, 3, well, you got you 2, Flying Hills or Aqua. I don't know what Aqua's bills look like. I've never seen one. I've seen 1 or 2 Shillington, and I'm sure Bob or Gene could chime in, Bill even for that matter, because he's on Shillington Water, what's on the bill. But there's usually an operation, an O&M fee or some sort
There's
of
a surcharge, yeah.
surcharge on there already. I feel like we're double paying for something. I've been arguing this for years, haven't gotten anywhere, but that's a huge chunk. And it's coming out of the fire fund, which is millage restricted.
Is that a negotiable fee?
I don't think so.
No,
But
Negotiable for the
the-
township, the hydrant rentals.
The-
Could they say, no, you cannot use these fire hydrants?
oh,
Well,
I think we're entering into territory that I don't know much about.
yeah, Andy, I'll just say to you this much. We missed a bill one time. Because the postcard got stuck to another piece of mail. And they made a big to-do about it. I'm just gonna say that, you can figure out who I'm talking about. And I just basically told them, go ahead and shut off my hydrants. We'll be front page of the Reading Eagle real quick. Because you're gonna have to go around every individual hydrant and shut them down. But that's a huge chunk. I wanted to point that out, and that cost has gone up over the years. I think it was last year, I think it was 70,000, now we're projecting 80. Because with the increases, you're gonna see that there too.
Just to help me understand the picture here too a little bit, and I'm not looking for concrete exact numbers. About round numbers, how many times are we tapping a hydrant in a year?
I can't even really give you a realistic answer on that. Because we like to do sometimes a training, and now that we have hydrants on the campus, we do a lot of that right here, Public Works. Over
Maybe
at Cedar Top,
It's 1,000, way over, under.
that'd probably be I'd say, okay, if you want to throw an estimate at, I'd say that, yeah.
Okay.
Because you're practicing, you're constantly doing stuff, and if we're not doing it here, we're doing it down at the training site.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my
So-
head around like what this 70,000. So if we're tapping a fire hydrant 1,000 times a year, that's 700. They're charging us $700 to use that fire hydrant once. That seems a little
That's a lot.
wild to me. And yeah, obviously give or take, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 2,000, whatever.
And I can tell
Several
you
$100.
off the invoice, the number of hydrants, because it's listed on there. It's basically a surcharge. And like I said, I believe by the law, I believe they can do it. I'm not an attorney, don't want to be an attorney. But you see these, and again, I'm just saying like, okay, well, it doesn't come out of this budget. It has to come out of some budget, or we need to talk to our neighboring ones. I don't think, well, it'll be a challenge to get to Aqua or PA American. But Shillington, that's a different story. But that's a chunk that sticks out to me and has since I become fire chief in the fire budget.
Again, one last question. Round numbers here. Our water suppliers. Is there a disproportionate supplier that accounts for this number?
Yeah,
I'm guessing by the look on your face, we know who that supplier is.
yes. I just wanted to point that out.
Yes,
Understand a couple of things. Chief, do you have, like, is there a call volume that you kind of see monthly? You know, is there a, you know, do you have the data on what our call volume is?
Yeah, actually to date, I believe we're at 1,086 calls for the year, for this year. Each monthly report has the month in it, Mark, that you'll get to see with a breakdown of calls. The mapping to put those on a map, when we did this back for the new building, the location was based off of, if you sat here and you looked, the majority of a good bit of our structure fires were in this section of the township. And we are pretty much center of the township right here with neighboring people around us. But yes, it can be broken out. You can see what the different calls are. And there's a lot here just in the township where we're bringing mutual aid in to assistance. But that's all in the monthly report. It's a breakdown of the number of calls per month. And obviously I was in today because I had to do an incident report myself. And I said, I think it was 1,086 is where we're at to date.
Do some of those 1,086 include sort of support that we're providing outside of the township, or are they counted in the numbers?
Yes, absolutely. That's total number of calls, and that's driven with the CAD and the Berks County Communications Center. That's where
Okay.
those numbers are generated.
Okay, and just from my understanding, are we currently all full-time firefighters, or do we have a volunteer contingent that's you know, there for support of your full-time firefighters? So that you have the ability to, I don't know, I think I was reading something about 10 firefighters are required for initial response as to some firefighter a standard, I guess, that is out there. Do you involve the volunteer firefighters as well in your responding to any of these?
Yes, when they're available. But they need to be available and they also need to come out. So I can count on one hand.
So that's sort of a dwindling number or
Yes,
a not
drastically
very
dwindling.
reliable number?
Yes. It's been dwindling for some time. And the process for hiring on the fire side is similar to the PD. It's governed by civil service. You might be able to get things expedited in 6 months, but it's tight. And then if you have to send them away for any training, that just adds on anywhere from 5 weeks to potentially upwards of 20 weeks at an academy, which we've done in the past. So with dwindling numbers, I can't sit here and wait and go, hey, this thing's going to turn and we're going to go the other direction, because I quite honestly, I don't see it. And we're working on a couple things on the volunteer side to integrate them in where they can be. But you have to have the volunteers that are willing to come out. And with their schedules, it's getting harder and harder to accomplish that. That's why we are here today where we are right now. And like I said, I can show you numbers. I can show you different things. There's some way we can report stuff. And it's really based off the board. What do you want to see moving forward? Do you want to see something different in the report? Will it be beneficial? I've been down this road a couple times, provide more information, and it just confused people more than what it helped. And unfortunately, our software, Madison's got me on this one. He's got some really cool software where he can do some really wild things, but that's law enforcement. Fire's not that far along with some of that stuff because we have a mapping software, but it doesn't, I don't want to say, it doesn't come out as clear as what I like it to show. We did a manual one with the study for the new building and plugged in stuff on a map and put basically pins in, and you could see a pattern with things.
Do you still have? He was interested in, he was very involved with the volunteers and passionate about keeping that going. Is anything happening with that?
Well, at this point, I'd rather not discuss any type of issues with personnel, because that's just something I don't think that should
Wasn't
be
looking for
discussed.
personnel issues. I was wondering if he was still getting a
He's
volunteer.
volunteering, but he's not here with us. I think he's moved on and went to Bracknock or one of them, but outside of that, like I said, I'd rather not discuss issues with personnel in an open meeting.
I know you just sat down, Mark, but Mark and Tanya, it goes to both of you. Do you have any thoughts on the topic du jour here with the 400,000 for the 3 extras? Gonna go back up if you have some thoughts.
Just for everyone's sake too, I mean, I think it bears noting that you both will be commissioners in the coming year, and should you so desire, we would have to reopen the budget. And so I think it is worth everyone's while to have your input into this as well.
Right. I appreciate your,
Before we move on to that, just be aware, you can reopen the budget for the line items, but the millage must be set by December 26th, or it won't be able to appear on the county tax bills. So keep in mind, you have to set the millage before you might reopen the budget.
Even more reason to get their input now.
Well, I just want to make that clear that, and unless you want the township administration to be sending out tax bills, and I guarantee you, we will not do it as efficiently as the county does.
No, thank you for that information. Yeah, it's a difficult question. I think, well, we've been here for a few weeks talking about an potential increase in taxes because costs have gone up, and we have services that we have to provide, and fire is one of them. And if we're questioning whether or not we can do it safely, that's serious. That's important for us to be able to do for many reasons. So I'm, I guess, inclined to feel that if it is truly a safety issue that we're getting at here, then we kind of have to bite the bullet. And but I appreciate all these questions because I think it's a serious increase that we're talking about here for our residents, and we have to be able to answer for that and give good reason why. So I'm listening and I'm kind of weighing, how I'm not quite yet ready yet to put the stamp of approval on it until I hear more, but I feel like in my gut, if I was just going on this, safety is always, safety first, you kind of go back to your like everything that you learn growing up. So if we can't provide a service to our residents safely, then we need to make adjustments, but again, I kind of feel like I'm still a little unsure putting the whole picture together of, is 3 the number? Is it absolutely, like, have we vetted this? And maybe, I'm not sitting in with all the information that you guys have. So, but that's just how I'm processing this. That's all.
I agree with all that as well. Safety should be our #1 concern for our community. It's a big number, and it's kind of the new person coming in next year. It's hard to tell our people that we need to raise taxes. Everybody's cutting back all over, and I think if we're gonna have to raise taxes, we're gonna have to give them a darn good answer of why we're doing that. And safety of the public is a really good answer to me. So all those variables need to come into play though. But thank you for letting us address it.
I just want to add to, I know what I said, but I will cast no judgment to anybody who decides that we should go the other way. This, again, is a rock and a hard place position.
I'm sorry, Andy, I was distracted for a second.
I just wanted to say that whatever position anyone takes on this is a very difficult position we're in. I'm not going to certainly cast judgment on anyone who decides that we can't afford this. I'm just saying my feeling is, quick anecdote. I had to see grieving widows in my time in the service. And I will every single day look in the eyes of a resident and tell them, we raised your taxes so that your husband came home safe, or our firefighters who are risking their lives came home safe. I will not look in the eyes of one of those women again. Excuse me. That will not be something that I will do. So that's where I stand here. I understand this is a difficult problem.
Yeah, I think that's a compelling argument. You kind of convinced me. So then we have to deal with, well, okay, what are the ramifications, right? So the ramifications are, next year we're going to be short. There's probably escalators in the new contract on an annual basis, right? Like their wages go up a certain amount every year.
Yes,
And I don't know if we're allowed to talk. Are we allowed to?
that would not be a good thing to
Account.
discuss.
Okay.
The deal isn't.
Yep,
yeah.
yep. But there's going to be a certain percentage that the wages are going to go up every year. So we're gonna have an issue like next year. There's 2 ways of looking at it. You can either bite the bullet hard now and get ahead of the issue, or you can stepwise it. There's a legitimate argument for either one. Maybe I'll just stop there and let people say what they want to say.
I mean, to me, the question is political. Do we just rip the Band-Aid off and move to where do we run a deficit this year knowing that we are not going to cover everything? Or do we just balance the budget, get to where we need to be and move forward? I guess that's how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we're not at a deficit, but we don't have enough in reserves that would make our auditors / creditors happy. And then when you add in escalators, the next year, you're locking yourself into a future tax rate increase.
Yeah. And I think my personal feeling is I would rather let's get to where we need to be so we don't have to just keep raising everyone's taxes every year. I think we have to do it. I mean, I guess if not doing it means we're going to get our credit rating knocked, or our auditors are going to give us a bad audit because we're not bringing our fiscal house into order, then I'd rather just bring our fiscal house into order and move forward where we need to be. That's my point of view.
What do you think, Bill?
You gotta remember, we have 3 unions here. We're gonna have, every department is gonna get a raise from now to when their contract's over, whatever that number is. So not just the fire department, but the police and public works with the Teamsters.
It is an important point, actually, because you have to look at it comprehensive. Gene started on this topic a little bit earlier about what we're going to land at with the general fund. I mean, even the general fund it's the same situation, not quite as severe as the fire fund, but it's the same situation.
2 of the fire personnel we're hiring are to replace people that left. And then it was approved in last year's budget for a 3rd captain. Now this year the title is getting changed to something else, but it's still going to be like the same duties. Right, same rotation, just a different title instead of captain. But that was approved in last year's budget, and we just didn't get that far.
One thing I would ask of the board is this, there's no good way to say this 3 mil cap. Why is there a 3 mil cap just on fire? We have other things that don't have a cap on it. There's certain counties in the state, primarily down the Philly way, that it got moved because they seen what was happening. The cost of everything is going up, and there's been such a drastic change with reassessments and what you're getting reassessed at versus what you can sell your property at. I know it's never a 1-for-1, it's never equal, but this took a major swing one way, which at some point, if that comes around and changes, that's also going to change where mills were. But I'd be lobbying hard for get this cap off because it's hindering certain departments. And again, we have to provide it. But again, that needs to, I think, come from local level to state and move up the chain. I know it's been talked at conferences I've been at. This has been the hot button topic. We just can't get off a dead center with it. But that's just my thoughts. So,
That's not helping this budget.
No, and to Chief's point, that 422 surplus that you see down there, that's your ceiling. It's never going to get higher than that for that reason. It's always going to decline as the wages increase. So then, like Gene was saying, you're going to have to borrow from other funds to make the numbers work. Yeah, or you know, You're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah.
I guess is there?
I guess let me put it this way, like, if you're looking for a pure financial diagnosis, let's take any emotion and politics out of it and stuff like that. You probably need your general fund to be closer to 6.5 on the sheet instead of 6.
I mean,
If we want to go this route.
I don't see an alternative to going this route other than what I see as telling our firefighters and their families that we're sending you in there knowing that we're putting you at unnecessary risk. And so if that's the case, I will vote for 6.5 and I will explain that to any resident who takes issue with it.
Well, again, keep in mind, my comments go beyond the fire fund here because it really is going to balance out your general fund because your general fund is still at a budget or a deficit, even with what Gene put together here. So it would effectively just kind of beef it up a little bit so that when the next year happens, there is something to pull from. It also lets you maintain all of the police, the public works, the admin. It kind of takes care of everything.
I would support that. I think the long-term vision is with growth and improvement that we've talked about. We can start moving the opposite direction.
In time.
But I just don't think that's where we are today. And I think that's why we need to do some of the things we've talked about. And I think right now what we need to do is do right by our residents and do right by the people who are serving our residents. And so if that means we need to bump taxes right now, we owe it to our residents to work our asses off to lower those taxes as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's definitely would, it's never going to eliminate the risk of future tax increases, but it'll definitely blow it way down.
That's why I qualified it by saying we need to work very hard to make sure we make our residents, we do right by them, and justify what we're asking them to spend.
Before we get to any kind of motion, I do have a question. You might recall with the ambulance fund that we were looking at between 0.4 and 0.5 on the draft sheet I have before you. I set it at 0.45. What would the board like with respect to the ambulance fund? It's basically referring to the amount of cushion going into 2027, and during 2026, we have to renegotiate with Tower, so I really don't know what that amount is going to be for 2027. We do have to increase it. There's no question about it, at least to 0.4. Mr. Greg Miller had suggested 0.5. I wasn't sure how comfortable the rest of the board was with that.
Well, at 4.5, what would be the estimated bottom line then?
It would carry us through 2.5 months of the first quarter of 27 at our current payment to Tower. If it was set at 0.5, we'd have the entire first quarter of 27. Again, I don't know what, based on the current payment, which is $45 per household, I do not know what will be negotiated during 2026, going into 2027.
Then we should probably just go to 0.5, like Greg suggested. initially.
It would probably be advisable. We didn't really have a discussion of that, so I wanted to point that out to the board.
Just to follow that, I would support going to 0.5. I think what we're talking about again is emergency services. We need to make sure we have, we're funding our emergency services. These are not, first of all, we have state mandates that we have to provide these services. And second of all, I think these are non-negotiables in my opinion. We're not talking about things that are just optional. If our emergency services need to be funded, my opinion is we fund them.
So it looks like the new total would be 10.85.
Correct? What I would ultimately need from the board whenever we conclude, or before the conclusion of the meeting, is a motion authorizing administration to advertise the budget as we've been discussing. I would with changes authorized by the board, and at this point, the changes the big change would be the millage for the general fund. For the public's information, I know that at several of the public meetings, I've talked about the barrage of assessment reductions for many, many homes throughout the township and many businesses. We just received 2 more today, one from the Dollar General and another from Genesis Healthcare, that they are going to court to have their assessments reduced even further from what the Board of Assessment initially determined for 2026. So these assessment reductions just continue to happen. I know that the school district generally intervenes with respect to these, especially these commercial reassessments. But in general, they march on, and certainly they've already received some amount of reduction. So I believe we are not the only municipality going through this. I think all the municipalities are going through this, but it is really, really challenging.
Well, you can see in that line that you highlighted, the general fund 3010-100, reduction of $3,310,400.
And that was from January through October. The ones I was just referring to are going to take in effect in 2026. So there will be further reductions in 2026. Now, everyone knows Taco Bell just opened. They will be receiving a reassessment, but really we're talking about treading water. We're not talking about advancing or furthering our assessment. Because once they go down, the only way they go up is if somebody builds something, they have a building permit that changes their assessment or some other factor like that. Usually it has to do with building. So yeah, once they go down, they generally don't come back up.
I just had a quick question on that number for next year's budgeted amount, 5 million, with the line 3010-100 going up, by what, 600,000? Is that, what is that?
That is
driving that, I
on
guess.
the upper left-hand corner, I've written 6 mils. That's based on a formula of 885,505 for what a taxable mill is worth times 6 mils at 98% collection.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
So
Thank you.
That number will go up, Mark. That with 6.5, that would go up by another roughly 400,000. The challenge for me personally is what Tanya brought up. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there struggling now, so this is not going to go over well. But candidly, we don't have, there's no good alternative.
For the public's information, we have reduced and we've cut everything we can cut. There is a considerable difference between the expenses on this budget versus the expenses on the last general fund budget that I generated. That was expenses over $11 million. We've cut several $100,000 out of this budget. The problem is it would be extremely difficult to cut even more. And I'm not sure where those cuts would reasonably come from. I'd also want to correct something, if the board will indulge me for a moment. There was a discussion, if you want to put it that way, at the last meeting between Mr. Donnell and Mr. Batdorf. And I want to point out that both of those gentlemen were wrong. Mr. Batdorf was not correct in stating that taxes have not increased over the last several years. They have. Now it has been targeted. It has not always been the general fund, but yes, taxes have been increased over the last several years in various ways. And the board has a rundown of this sheet. I can give it to anyone else. But also on the issue that Mr. Donnell brought up about paying down the fund balance several years ago, before he and Mr. Greg Miller were elected to the board, the auditor actually instructed us to pay down the fund balance because we had an excess fund balance. And I can certainly provide that in writing to anyone who wants to see it. So both things are true. The problem that we're running into is the hammer and anvil of we've done what we were instructed to do. However, costs are rising significantly, as we've all noted here, and assessments are reducing significantly and have been over the past 2 years. So with that confluence of events, that's why we are where we are. And it's an unfortunate series of events, but I, again, know that we are not the only municipality going through this. Municipal managers talk to one another, and I'm very well aware that there are other municipalities going through some of these same hard choices that we are going through. So I just wanted to make that clear that there are several things that came into effect to produce the choice that we have to make for 2026.
So given the increase, what would that mean to a $100,000 property?
1 mil is $100 on a $100,000 property. So if you're, say, increasing taxes by 1.5 mils, and just pick that out of the air, that would be $150 on a property of $100,000. So you would, there's an easy formula. I actually have a handout upstairs for residents when they ask about how do I calculate this. You need to know your assessed value. But that's how it works. It's $100 on 100,000
Of assessed value.
Yeah. And it's not market value. That's another thing that gets confusing for people.
Right.
It's not based on the market value of a property. I think Mr. Greg Miller earlier in the meeting alluded to that. It's different what you sell your property for versus what it's assessed at. And that assessment is listed on the property tax bill. And we can look that up also. It's available to the public on the county. The county actually has a pretty good website for that if anyone needs to know their assessed value.
Did we get to, sorry, I had to step away for a second. I was tap dancing. What the adjustments we talked about tonight would bring us to in terms of the landing spot?
Total 10.85.
Okay, so we're looking at about 2 from where we were last year.
Yeah, for the general fund, as the board has been talking about it, the general fund increase would be that. I must have typed something wrong. $1.155 mils. The fire increase would be 0.7 mils, and the ambulance increase would go from 0.34 to 0.5.
Okay, so but the all-in landing spot is around 10.85.
It's exactly 10.85.
So the reason I wanted to just get to that is because I like to put things into regular people terms, which I think Leisha's question was prodding at. And what that means in regular people terms, correct my math if I'm wrong here, is a property with a $1 million assessed value, which I don't know how many of those we have. A $1 million assessed value would land where would be $10,000, $10,850,000.
Well, just say if somebody has, like, they would say, like, the average home price in Cumru Township
I
is
don't know
about
what it is. I don't know
300,000 or
what the
something.
average home price.
250 or 300, like,
In terms of assessed.
Well,
there was a
it's
300
assessed value. Again, we have to really keep.
Market value is 300, but that's not the assessed
Right.
value.
Right.
But I wanted to put that in terms, like if we're saying assessed value is 100,000, it's 100 times 10.85.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be $1,800
$85.
or yes, $1,885.
$85.
If it was $1 million assessed value, it would be $10,850. So just to put that into sort of more concrete terms.
I mean, it seems like everybody's kind of aligned at this point. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we're all kind of biting the bullet, using your term.
yeah, we're all really hating this, but having to make a choice.
I'll make
Yeah.
the motion
I'll second it.
of raising the general fund to 6.5, the fire at 3.0, the debt service at 0.85, EMS at 0.5, for a total of 10.85
Yes,
for 2026.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
So the next thing that will happen is we will put together the sheet as I had asked the board what format you wanted for the general public. It'll be available both on the website when we get that in a PDF format and up at the counter in the office. Also, we will be publishing the tax ordinance that happens every year. That won't be published at the same time. I want to make sure the solicitor reviews the wording of the tax ordinance to make sure she's satisfied with it. At your December 16th meeting, you will be adopting several things. And as I previously requested of the board, we would request a consent agenda. You will be adopting the budget, adopting the tax ordinance, adopting the refuse fee for 2026, which is remaining the same. You will be adopting the SMP fee, which will also be remaining the same. You will be, this year, it is my understanding that the board wished to defer reappointing various committee positions all to the January. I need to know whether you want it at the January organization meeting or the January regular meeting.
Gonna do it at the organization meeting?
That would
That-
make the most sense, but I
Yeah, that's
didn't want to
fine.
make the assumption.
Make it the organization.
Okay. I'm trying to think, those are the main things that you will be adopting at your December meeting. So that, and again, as Mr. Donnell had alluded to, the issue of opening the budget. You will also be adopting the agreement with the county for the county to print the county township real estate tax bills. That also has to be adopted in December because we have to send that in to the county by December 26th for them to print the tax bills. The new board, after the organization in January, can reopen the budget in terms of the line items, but that millage will already be on the tax bill in process of being printed. So there's not anything that can be changed in respect to that. I think that's about it in terms of what's going to happen at the December meeting for administratively. If you have any questions, let me know. If we need anyone to sign anything in the meantime, we'll give you a call or ask you, let you know. That's what I have.
Anything else? Reminders, Board of Commissioners meetings for December 16th at 7 p.m. That's a regular meeting. And January 5th, an organization meeting.
What time would you like the organization meeting? Your typical meetings are 7 p.m., but it doesn't have to be 7 p.m.
What time suits you all? 6:30? 6:30.
6:30.
We'll make it
Okay.
6:30
I will.
on January 5th.
I will also have to advertise it. We anticipate that the Planning Commission will reschedule their January meeting because otherwise they would conflict with organization meeting. We have that problem every 2 years. The civil service in the first class township code, they used to be Civil Service Commission had to organize in the same evening also. In the last amendment to the first class township code, that was changed. They have 30 days to organize, and I'm more than happy to have a little breathing room. So I don't know yet when the Civil Service Commission will be reorganizing, but it will be sometime in January, just not January 5th. If we get snow, I know that's a 4-letter word, but if we get snow or ice or some condition that you cannot meet on January 5th, the way the code states it is you have to meet the next day, not the next week, the next day. And if the board doesn't meet to organize within 10 days, which has never happened during my time here, then there are special provisions for how that is to occur. Typically we get the hardest snow days around President's Day. That President's Day is infamous for snow days.
We can also come pick you up.
That is true.
Let's do it.
So organization can occur unless, it's got to be a blizzard or something, God forbid. But I just wanted to put out there that there are parameters for that sort of thing. Is that all we needed to talk about? And at your organization meeting, then you'll set the regular meeting schedule for the next year. And of course, determine who's the president, who's the vice president. There's a lot of things that occur at the organization meeting. So you will see a series of advertisements coming out, and they're all related to this end of year and beginning of year preparatory time. Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.